Bullshit.
It's the No BS Marketing Show. I'm Dave Mastovich, CEO and founder of Massolutions, the world's only no bullshit marketing agency. I've had the chance the last 3 weeks to be on the road in person again, doing my keynotes and workshops. It's been fantastic. The energy level and being in front of people and how we feed off of each other made me realize how great in person is when compared to virtual. But I do want to take a step back and say, wow, in person is better. It is. It's definitely better. There's more engagement. There's more energy. What we learned through this pandemic is that virtual presentations, keynotes, workshops, webinars work. And they're here to stay. Because if we have a choice between no presentation, no keynote, no workshop, no webinar, or a virtual one, that is an easy choice. You definitely should do virtual because it brings tremendous value. In person brings more value. It definitely has a higher level of interaction and engagement. But it also has a negative and a cost associated with it. The travel time, the wear and tear that the travel does on your body and your energy level, and the cost of the travel. So if you want to say that an in-person engagement is like a 93 to 95 score, a virtual is probably an 87 or 88. So it is still very good and approaching excellent in comparison to in person. If, it's a big if the virtual presenter leverages the power of storytelling and the major tenets of effective, memorable storytelling. I'm here to tell you that the combination of virtual and in-person is excellent overall. You're able to maximize the benefits of both. There will be people that won't necessarily want to have an in-person presentation, keynote, workshop, but they'll do the virtual one. So that means it was virtual or nothing, and virtual is way better. There's less cost to do virtual, and there's less wear and tear on you, less time. But again, there's also less interaction and less engagement. The key is the if that I said earlier. If you are able to leverage the power of storytelling with the successful tenets of successful communication, messaging, and storytelling, virtual can work. First is less is more. Less is more. Second is use inflection and the power of silence. Both of those draw people in when you're in the virtual setting. The less is more is focus on one big idea for that presentation. Make it a theme around the webinar, the keynote, the workshop. And then have supporting storytelling pillars of that big idea. They support that big idea and they drill down into it in a memorable fashion. Use contrast, big and small imagery, not just reading to someone on a deck. Whether in person or virtual, use contrasting images and focus on less is more, and don't read to us. We all get frustrated when people are reading to us during a presentation, yet many of us still do the same thing when we put together our slides, and that's because we're using the slide as a crutch. Instead of using the slide as a crutch, use it as a memory enhancer. Have a big image up that reminds you to talk about one topic on that slide. Have one word or one statistic, and not just a statistic that makes an impact. A statistic that's so easy for everyone to understand. One that I use is 58% of employees would rather trust a stranger than their boss. 58% of employees would rather trust a stranger than their boss. There's no one that sees that isn't impacted by that. That's a stat that works. So if you're following these tenets of successful communication and powerful storytelling, if you're using contrasting imagery, if you're focusing on less is more, if you have a big idea and supporting storytelling pillars, if you use inflection and silence, you're going to be able to draw people in. If you engage the audience by forcing them on Zoom to talk to you and engage and interact, then that virtual presentation, webinar, keynote, or workshop can have an impact that's almost as much as the in-person workshop. And you now have two ways to do it. We are accepting now of virtual workshops and keynotes and webinars. So we have two ways to do it. So if the choice is, we don't really need to do this presentation. I don't know if we can really get to this workshop. I can't participate in that keynote. Or, I can do it via Zoom or WebEx. Then there is no choice there. Do it virtually. So that's my plus on this. I love being back on the road. You can feel the energy of the room, the engagement, the interaction. But I also know from doing over 100 virtual keynotes, workshops, and presentations during the pandemic that they still made a good impact. The major takeaways were still there. People were still able to be influenced and engaged. It's just that in person is a little more engaging, but it's also more taxing on the body, takes more time, and costs more money. So that now that we have two and they're both accepted, let's embrace them both, and let's use the key tenets of successful communication so that we can truly leverage the power of storytelling as leaders. Thanks for listening to another episode of the No BS Marketing Show, recorded here in our studios in bold, beautiful downtown Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Remember, ask yourself, what's the big idea? And build your story around the answer. It's all about bold solutions, no BS.